So one day, well, I was visiting a duplex to follow up on a man I'd prayed for a week earlier, a guy named Randy. Now, to my surprise, a man named Glenn, who I found out was Randy's roommate, answered the door. Now, what did I do? I was expecting Randy. I find a Glenn. Well, I did this. I turned on the watchful eyes of God upon my heart and just asked myself, is God interested in touching this guy? I see Glenn to see if Glenn is really ready for that divine appointment. Is he interested? Is this a divine appointment? Give myself space and time. And I want to say that again, give yourself space and time to discern. And then you can start seeing if there's something that's receiving from them. So I told him how I had met and prayed for Randy, and I watched his eyes to see if he was giving me attention. And he did. Yes, he did give me his attention, but he responded this way. I don't believe in that God stuff. And I asked him why. He said it was none of my business. But what did I do? You keep going. Normally, I would just leave an unopened person. But the watchful eyes of my heart of God just kept warming up for this guy to say none of his business. And God's like saying, it's my business. So I went after that guy's heart. So I asked him, can I pray for your eye? Now, why did I do that? Because when I saw him in the tension, I saw that he was having a hard time with his right eye. And so I said, oh, there's something I could pray for. So I said, can I pray for your right eye? And surprisingly, he said yes. And then he shocked me by saying that his right eye was a glass eye. So I'm just going, oh my God. I think, oh, what do I do now? Well, as you can imagine, my faith for a healing miracle flatlined, okay? Not that sometimes I won't reach for those things, because if you're in this business, you're going to have to reach for some miracles, folks, because there's more miracles out there than you could ever imagine. But at that point, my faith flatlined, and I wanted to find a way to rescind my prayer strategy. but he agreed. So I walked in his home, and I see this disassembled motorcycle right in the middle of the living room.
Everybody has one of those.
Yeah, I guess so. Glenn invited me to sit on the couch. Now, what did he do? He walked to the opposite side of the room. And so this motorcycle stood between me and him. So already not ideal to be laying on of hands and pray for him. But finally, Jesus signaled to my heart, let me take over. So I asked Glenn, could you please close your eyes and just relax? I know maybe you don't believe in this God stuff, but what's it going to hurt for you to relax and open your heart for God's presence? And I like to say something as big, as important as God, maybe we should just be wide open to see if an experience can come our way. And so I prayed for God's presence to come. And so he put his head down and prayed. I waited silently for about 1 minute. And sometimes, folks, you have to coach people to that 1 minute because they're looking at you to say something and say, no, 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 no. Let's just wait. Let's just reach out with our heart. Sometimes it takes 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but this was very unusual because I would say maybe slightly under a minute, not judge, something suddenly happened. And that room just got full of the presence of God. The next thing I hear is Glenn screaming. He starts screaming. I'm just going, oh, wow. He's yelling at me and the friend that was with me. He told us to leave the house. And he practically shoved us out the door. And then he slammed the door and locked the door right by my backside, just left the door frame. And I was just blown out of the water. Just like, what happened? Before I could even finish my thoughts, all of a sudden the door flew open. And then Glenn shouted to me, I was a chaplain for a jail, and slammed the door shut again. So what do? Well, you see, part of our mission strategy is when we meet people, we go see them a week later. And I thought, we'll have to just see what's going to happen. I mean, if God showed up, even if it's the most uncomfortable experience, if God showed up, right, and he did, then I'm going to go back and revisit that person. And so I went over and knocked on the door, and he opened the door and surprised me with this big smile. And he told me that he was absolutely frightened by the reality of God's presence because he just didn't expect it. He said it took him a half hour to calm down. When he finally calmed down, he said there was great clarity of mind came to him, and a whisper he felt came to him. God said, come home. Come home. Glenn was simply transformed, and he still is by that event.